Hello, I've got a question for you, and that is, how much do you really know about running a business? My name is Steve Mills, and I've been running my own business now for over 30 years, and believe me, there's still a lot to learn. Now, the reason I ask that is that I believe that one of the biggest problems with running a business is actually the ownership of that business. Let me explain. Firstly, did you know that over 80% of small businesses that start go bust and cease trading within 5 years? Now, of the remaining 20%, a full 90% of those are gone by year 10. And that is an alarming statistic when you consider the implications of that. People lose their cars, their houses, their marriage, their health, and so on and so forth. So this is starting a business, whilst, I love it and I think it's wonderful and it is, it's also really, really tricky. It's difficult to do and to do well. Why is that? Well, if you have learnt from a guy called Michael Gerber, who's one of the many gurus and experts and world leading authorities that I've learnt from over the years, and Gerber says it's to do with what he calls operational expertise. In other words, people who run businesses go into business because they're experts operationally. Let me give you an example. It could be that I'm a garage mechanic, and I've been a garage mechanic now for 20 years, and I decide to start my own business. So perhaps I get made redundant and think, what am I going to do? I know I'll start my own business. Believing because I've got the operational expertise, in other words, I know how to repair cars and service them and so on, that means I know enough to run a business that does that work. And it's the same in any field. Whether you're a garage mechanic, a hairdresser, a coach, a consultant, an accountant, a lawyer, anything, right? The operational expertise is one of three departments that you need a high level of expertise in. And that's not including things like HR and recruitment and so on and so forth. But let me just talk to you about what Gerber says are the three keys to growing a business. And that is having a high level of expertise operationally. You've got to be good at doing the work. If you're not good at doing the work, you'll get found out pretty quickly. Secondly, number two, you've got to be good at marketing the business. If you've not got any business, there's nothing there, is there? You've got to be good at marketing and selling. I'm going to group those two together. So, in other words, you've got to be good at generating leads and then converting those leads into profitable business. And then number three, you've got to be good at financial management. That'll kill you if you do not know and understand business management. And yet, where are we taught that? Unless you're actually an accountant, which you would assume you've got a good knowledge of finance then. But other than that industry, we're really not taught it. And, I've not, again, touched on things like HR, the legal side, that can burn you, can't it? If you get things wrong legally, you can be sued and have all sorts of legal problems and so on. So, there's a whole range of expertise that we need. Now, sure, you can hire an accountant, you can hire a lawyer, you can hire a marketing person, and so on and so forth. But really, do you really know that these people are as good as they say they are? And it still pays to have a decent level of knowledge. I'm not saying you need to be, a qualified accountant or a lawyer or have 30 years experience in marketing like I have, but you can't be a novice either. You need to know about marketing. It's essential. It's not a, well, I'll do it one day, or, I'll go on and watch a YouTube video or two. You need a program of development, of improvement in your marketing, in your sales. I'll give you an example from my world. Every morning, 7 o'clock to 7:30 is sales or marketing training every day. And I've been doing that for 30 years. Now, you don't have to be that bright to know, that in that time, the number of hours that have accrued, are phenomenal. And that's not all. I call my car a university on wheels, so that when I'm out driving, I'm constantly and consistently learning about business. I'm listening to the latest technology. I'm looking at AI, digital marketing, and so on, and making sure that I'm at the cutting edge in my operational side of my business, being a marketing consultant stroke advisor. So, that's really what I wanted to talk to you about encouraging you and hopefully motivating you to take some action and start to become better at selling and marketing. Now, if you think about why businesses do go bust, clearly they go bust for a whole variety of different reasons. Some of them have operational problems. Some of them are just unlucky. Some of them don't work hard enough, And but if you ask me, what do you think based on those 30 years are the two biggest reasons? My number one reason, and it's number one reason by a long, long, long way, is lack of sales. If you've got enough sales, you can afford to employ a full-time legal person. If you've got enough sales, you can afford to employ a full-time accountant, who's gonna be there, who's gonna watch your back. But in truth, lack of sales will kill you more than anything ever will. And I would add to that profitable sales. And I would also add, to achieve that, we're talking about lead generation, aka marketing, and then lead conversion. And that's having a sales system in place, training yourself and your team to be better at selling on an ongoing basis. And better at converting those leads into sales. Because if you're currently converting 4 out of 10 and you improve that to 6 out of 10, whilst that's a 20% improvement, it's a 50% growth in your business over time. The second biggest reason I would say is poor financial management. Not being up to date. Typically a small business will get a set of accounts that are produced at the end of the year, and often that by the time they're produced, it's 18 months ago. So it's like trying to, I don't know, one of my accountancy clients tells me it's like trying to drive a car using a rear view mirror. You're not going to get very far if you're just looking in the mirror telling you how well you did 18 months ago. What you really need is up-to-date financial information. And you need to be aware of that, need to have monthly management accounts, up to date sales figures, up to date costs within your business, up to date profit and loss information, and an up to date balance sheet on your business. And yet, I again from many accountants that people spend less than 5 minutes looking at their accounts because they don't see any value in it because it's 18 months old. And they then sign them off, and off they go to HMRC. And so they're basically managing their business by looking in the rear view mirror. So that's all I wanted to say for today. I think it's a really important point, and if I can help you in any way, get in touch. My expertise is obviously in the sales and marketing side of business. If you want more sales, more easily, more often, at less cost, then please get in touch. My website is results-mastery.com, and I look forward to seeing you soon. So thanks for listening. If you're listening on YouTube, great that you're doing so. If you're on my podcast, again, thanks for doing so. Subscribe to both of them. And if you're listening anywhere else, it's still great to have you here. So thanks very much, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thank you.